really like this house at the end of the street because it's nicely lit by the sun, more than the surrounding buildings, so it really stands out, and we have some nice leading lines leading to it. So yeah, it's a first composition that works pretty well. The light on this vending machine was so nice that I just had to snap a photo. I really like the red storefront on top of it, so I decided to take a vertical photo to make sure that the vending machine and the storefront were nicely balanced in the frame. It's not a masterpiece, but it's a good photo to have for a set. Some nice side light. Next I was waiting for the light to turn green, and I noticed some cool patterns on this building. The structure of it with the repeating light and shadow patterns was really interesting. To make it look cleaner and focus just on this part of the building, I used the crop mode and turned my 40mm lens into a 60mm. $40mm might have been a bit too wide here, I guess, but I saw this lady walking into the light with her two dogs. I quite like the nut aesthetic aspect of this scene, with the big bypass on the left side of the frame. It creates a photo that really embodies everyday life. The bypass acts as a leading line from the left side and nicely encapsulates the subject I sought. Not too sure what I saw here. The wind rustling the leaves of this tree looked really peaceful. I also noticed a few light spots on the right side, which were reflections from the window from the house behind me, but it was tricky to get a good exposure that showed the tree nicely while keeping the contrast on those light patches. Probably that this scene was more suited for video than photo, I think. I love when street curves in the distance. It adds a nice dynamic to the scene. This frame shows the only downside of this Viltrox 40mm lens I was using. When shooting into the light, you can get some glare or ghosting, like we see on the left side of the frame. I'm not a huge fan of it in this case, but we'll see later in the video another situation where it worked much better. I'm so impressed by the dedication some people have for their plants here in Japan. I love the kind of organized mess it was here. I opened my lens to f2.5 to have a shallower depth of field, and I intentionally blurred the plants on the left side to give more attention to the ones on the right, which are my main subject for this frame. Trying to figure out a way to take a photo that features all these boats that I like, with the nice colorful elements next to them, and the big bypass in the background. I think it is a pretty interesting combination that we don't often see, so yeah, let's figure out a way to compose that. I ended up framing this shot vertically because 40mm felt too tight to include both the bypass and the boat while leaving enough room around the scene for it to breathe. The little bridge in the foreground added a nice touch, naturally guiding the viewer's eye toward the subject. It also added an extra layer, making this a 3-layered composition: the bridge in the foreground, the boats as the subject, and the bypass stretching in the background. After recording a few clips, I turned around and straight away I noticed this bright red car partly hit by the sunlight. I used the stone structure on the left to block part of the scene and clean up some of the visual noise. The small green accents around the car caught my eye too. They worked beautifully with the red from the car thanks to their complementary aspect. After that, I spent some time capturing and focusing on smaller details around the boat. I always find these different tools quite fascinating. Often they are really colorful, and we can see that they've been heavily used and had a life of their own. like the simple frame we can create here vertically, but I don't like that here you can see something pops out from behind this little I don't know, storage thing. But if I go down a little bit, you see suddenly the power line and the other black thing disappear, and we have a much cleaner composition just by squatting down a little bit. The light was so good this morning that even something as simple as the small ladder on this wall caught my eye. It created interesting patterns of light and shadow with a nice airy feel despite the strong contrast. It's a minimal frame, but one I really like, I must say. Here, the lightning, the subject is really nice. I love that, but what really elevates this shot is here, the shadow of the torii gate casting on this stone wall really elevates the photo and adds a little bit of interest on the right side of the frame, making this photo even more interesting and adding another layer of visual interest. Here comes the example where the lens flows played to my advantage. I think that the glare coming from the left side really adds a nice touch of warmth and a dreamy touch to this photo. On all the photos I took around this boat facility, I'll call it that way because I'm not too sure what they were doing, maybe harvesting some oysters, but anyway, I bumped up the vibrancy to really pay tribute to all the little colorful elements scattered around this place. After spending quite a bit of time around the boat, I finally resumed my exploration and came across a small shrine. At first, I tried capturing it from a distance to include the whole scene, but didn't really like the result, so I stepped closer and went for a more detailed abstract shot, playing with the red-orange of the torii against the clear blue sky. Not far from there, I came across a temple. I took a few different shots, one from a narrow street leading up to it, another just before the entrance using the door to frame the scene, and finally a horizontal shot from inside, focusing on the beautiful patch of light hitting the stairs and part of the temple. I kept two more photos, one showcasing some tools people can use to clean the graves and water the plants, and the other, maybe a signature of mine, a tilted shot facing up showing the roof and the architecture of the temple. The area I visited that morning was full of shrines and temples. I came across a third one just a few minutes later. I particularly liked the photo I took at the entrance. The light was hitting the torii beautifully, and with the narrow spaces I was moving through, I framed the shot vertically to capture the entire torii while leaving some room at the top and at the bottom for better balance in the composition. If we had someone in the light down the stairs, it could be a very nice shot, but doesn't seem like a very busy shrine, I would say. top of the hill there was yet another shrine, but I have to admit, in such narrow spaces with no room to step back from the subject, and with the overwhelming reds from the flags and torii, I couldn't capture any photo I was happy with. It was one of those places that's beautiful to experience in person, but doesn't translate well through the lens, at least not with the focal length I was using that day. Love these trees. I spent the rest of the morning capturing a few more shots and soaking up the sun on a bench atop the cliff. What amazed me was that this area is less than 20 minutes away from home, yet in almost 3 years of living in Hiroshima, this was the first time I'd explored and photographed it. It's a good reminder that we don't always need to travel far to find great photography subjects or to simply enjoy the process of taking photos. More often than not, the best opportunities are right around the corner. Wherever you live, I'm sure that there are great photos just a few minutes away. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. Hope to see you again next time. Bye bye.